We are just days away from the end of the financial year, which means tax time for millions of Australians. The ATO releasing its hit list this year. Let's see who is on it with finance expert Michelle Maynard. Who is in the firing line, Michelle?
Well, you and I, Mon, well, not us specifically, but everyday individuals. For about the third year in a row, the ATO has said that they lose a lot of income from us overclaiming our deductions and under-declaring our income. So they've put out 4 key areas that they're going to be looking at this year. The first one is work-related deductions. So they want to make sure that we're not copying, pasting from last year, that we've actually incurred the expense and haven't been reimbursed by our employer. Secondly, they're looking at rental property investors. They want to make sure that you've included all of your rental income and you aren't claiming anything that's not related to that property. So people have been putting their maintenance and repairs on their principal place of residence on their rental property. So they're cracking down on that this year. Thirdly, a big one is cryptocurrency. A lot of Australians have dabbled in that this year, and every time you do a trade, that's a capital gains tax event. So the ATO wants to make sure you're including that loss or income in your return. And lastly, record keeping and documentation. The ATO has laid dormant for the last couple of years, but they're really ramping up their audit activity. And because we have to keep records for 5 years, they actually want to make sure that we're doing that, and they are asking to see some of it. So 4 key areas this year.
What do people who work from home need to know about claims?
So what you need to do is not copy and paste what you did last year. So there are a couple of methods that you can use to claim your working from home expense. So there's the 80 cents per hour method, where you claim 80 cents per hour for every hour worked, but the ATO wants to make sure you've got a diary of your hours kept. If you're claiming a portion of your internet or your home phone, you need to have a record as to how you've come about that work-related percentage. But the main thing here is that you have to have actually incurred the expense at home, and your employer can't have reimbursed you for any of it. If they have, you actually can't claim that expense in your tax return. The ATO is really looking at this because our work-related patterns have changed. If your working from home expense goes up, but your travel expense hasn't gone down, they're going to be asking the question as to why when you said you've worked from home the majority of the year.
What are some hidden claimables that people may not know about, Michelle?
One I love is handbags, mainly for the girls more than boys, but they can claim their sort of laptop bags. But ladies, if you are having a handbag, there isn't a limit on the price of it, but if you're using that to carry your laptop around, that is something that we can actually claim. If it's more than $300 though, you have to depreciate it over several years. So that's one that I always find gets a good response. Secondly, superannuation contributions. They changed the rules a couple of years ago for employees. So if you make an after-tax contribution to your super and it's received by 30th of June, you actually get a deduction for that in your tax return. So make sure if you want to do that, you get that money in super quickly. Lastly, charitable donations. I know we all know that it's an option, but we don't really think about it. But if you do, and we're not talking about GoFundMes or something where you get a raffle ticket, but if you make a money contribution to a charity where you don't get anything in return, as long as it's more than $2 and you get a receipt, you can keep that in your tax return too for a deduction. So if you don't know what to claim in your tax return for the industry or occupation that you're in, the ATO does have a lot of great lists on their website. So go and have a look at that. Make sure you've got the records and documentation to back it up, because the ATO may ask, and get ready for tax time, which is 7 days away.
There's always much to consider this time of year. Michelle Maynard, thanks for explaining.
Thanks, Mon.